coming from a former bartender, like any industry or any job, there's a lot of secrets and unique things I've learned after bartending. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the 7 things your bartender doesn't want you to know.
Oh, hi, Mark.
Number 1, tipping. As much as we might not try to do this, we will always see how much you tipped us. We'll always look and low-key judge you for it or not, depending on your tip. Now, I will say, almost every bartender out there, we try to not make this obvious. Like, we don't want to be like, okay, that's how much they tipped me, okay. We kind of do it as like a quick glance, like a very, very subtle glance. And we really try to not make it obvious. It's like that famous scene from Seinfeld in terms of looking at Cleavage, where it's like staring at the sun. We don't stare directly into it. You just kind of glance and look away. We do that when we see how much you tip. And I will say that for most bartenders, let's say if you're not the best tipper, we won't hold an intense grudge against you. Some will, don't get me wrong, but it is something we do keep low-key in the back of our head. That is like Now you may be wondering, okay, Mark, that makes sense, but how much should I tip my bartender? What's considered a good tip? Now, a good rule of thumb, just across the board, is 20%. That's a very, very easy rule of thumb. However, I do think there is some exception, and I'll break it down into 3 different parts. Number 1 is what I like to call a simple order, so a beer or a shot. As you can imagine, as a bartender, the biggest thing, just overall among everything, is time and efficiency. So being able to make a drink very, very quick and very fast, while also making it super correct. And as you can imagine, those 2 things are difficult to do at the same time. However, with a beer or shot, pretty quick and pretty simple. And the general rule of thumb, some bartenders might disagree with me on this, is $1 per beer. So let's say you order a beer and the beer is $8, for example. Well, a 20% tip would be $1.60. However, if you let's say tip $1, I feel like that is pretty standard as it's a very simple order. The second type of tipping, as you can imagine, is a complex order. So what I'm talking about is basically any mixed drink that's not like a simple mixed drink. A rum and coke, rum, coke, pretty standard. But let's say you're getting a very complicated mixed drink with like say a lot of mixers and garnishes and all this kind of stuff. Let's say it's just a good amount of time to make that drink. You should absolutely tip them 20%. And number 3 is excellent service. So just in general, as it sounds, let's say the bartender just goes above and beyond, you should tip them more. As you can imagine, it's a customer service industry. So one quick example of this is I remember I went out with friends, they both ordered a beer, and I just wasn't really in the mood for beer. So I said to the bartender, who was a girl by the way, I was like, can I just have a White Claw, I guess? And she goes, your friends are ordering beers and you're getting a girly White Claw, like, really? Type thing. And so what she did is kind of like a joke, and she goes, all right, I'll make you a special White Claw. So even though she got me a White Claw, pretty simple as a drink, right? You just open it up. She put like this tropical pink umbrella on top of it. She put all this other stuff on top of it. Basically, she made it look as girly, so to speak, as possible, just as a joke, kind of talking with us and messing with us. And to me, that was good customer service. It was like a fun way that even though, yeah, she was only giving me a White Claw or only giving them beer, for example, she went above and beyond the typical practice. Obviously, this depends on a bunch of different factors, right? If a bar is super busy, they can't really do that. But overall, I do suggest, if let's say a bartender is really just busting their butt to just be a really good bartender and provide excellent customer service, you should always tip at least 20%. Number 2, making your drink stronger or weaker does depend a lot on you. Now, I will say, as a side note, and this is something your bartender wants you to know, in about, I'd say 80-ish% of cases, every drink is specifically measured out, and there's a couple different ways to do this. 1, bartenders might use like an actual measuring device, as you can imagine, to measure out how many ounces of liquor or liqueur or mixer or whatever. Or 2, they'll have these kind of metal pours on top, and what that does, especially for time's sake, is we'll convert any bottle, whether it's a small bottle or big bottle, to the same pouring speed and timing, and that way the bartender will know the exact amount of liquid they're pouring every time. In addition, and this is a big thing, especially for higher end bars, I know some hotel bars do this too. They will actually track the bartender in terms of how much liquor they're pouring. So let's say, and I'm making this up, on one night they serve, I'm just making this up, 15 gin and tonics. They will actually look at the receipts and be like, all right, 15 gin and tonics. They'll then look at the gin bottle and make sure that that measurement looks about to be 15 gin and tonics worth of gin gone from that bottle. I will say every place that does tracks a little bit differently, but this is very similar to, like, say, in a grocery store where the store might track how much money should be in the cash register. Same thing when it comes to bartending. And this is something that about 80% of the time that your bartender does want you to know, because let's say they make you a drink and you complain like, oh, this is too weak, or there's no alcohol in this, two very common complaints. It's like, well, they did actually have to measure it out. And even if they're not being tracked by like some computer or some system, a lot of times other bartenders will be observing other bartenders as well. However, and this is something your bartender doesn't want you to know, in about 20% of cases, and it does depend upon the bar, the situation, etc., we will make your drink stronger or weaker depending on you. If you're being a jerk, if you're being super nice to us, if let's say you tip super well, or not that well at all, some bartenders, and I gotta be blunt, will adjust the amount of liquor or alcohol that's in your drink. However, I will say in my experience, and I gotta be honest, very transparent on this video, in my experience, typically most bartenders won't make your drink super weak. They won't try to completely make you a horrible drink if, let's say, you're being a huge jerk. It's usually the other way around, I find, typically. I think bartenders are more likely to make your drink stronger and give you more alcohol if you're being nice than they are to make your drink weaker if you're being a jerk. Number 3, we see you. This one, pretty straightforward. Whether you're bartending or on the other side of the table, I guess both literally and figuratively, trust me when I say, especially when it's busy and it's crazy, we definitely see you, but we try not to. I know it sounds kind of like a weird analogy, but have you ever walked down the street in a city, and this is very common for anyone who lives in a city, we see maybe like a crazy person, and in your mind you're like, okay, maybe if I don't make eye contact and just keep walking, I won't have to interact with them. Bartenders kind of do a similar thing, and what most bartenders have learned, again, especially when it's crazy busy, is if you make too much eye contact with people, it can make it a lot worse. So that's why a lot of bartenders will be very observant of what's going on, but kind of just like, all right, I'm gonna make the drink, do my drink or whatever, just kind of like scan the crowd, so to speak. And then once they're ready to get your drink order, they'll make direct eye contact and say, hey, what do you want? Now I'm gonna give you 3 huge pro tips to get your drink order quicker when it's busy. 1, be patient. It's part of just being an adult, part of just waiting. Just be patient. I promise you, the more you act out and act rude or disrespectful or do the kind of the, I've been waiting for 5 minutes, what's taking so long, or whatever, trust me, bartenders hear everything. We're way more observant than you think. Being patient will get you served quicker than being rude and impatient. Second thing is have your credit card and your money out. I find this is a good technique where, let's say if you're waiting there patiently, just have your credit card out like this. Don't be rude with it. This can very easily come off as rude and disrespectful if you're like with the card or whatever. But if you just hold your card just like this and just be patiently waiting, that is the best approach to have. So the bartender can see your card and be like, okay, they're instantly ready to pay. They're instantly ready to order right away. Third thing, and this is a big one, is if let's say the bartender glances in your direction and they quickly make eye contact with you, like not direct eye contact, but it's like a quick thing, just nod and then just wait. I promise you, to a bartender, that says to a bartender very, very subtly, but importantly, like, hey, I understand you're busy. Just letting you know I'm ready to order when you get the chance. I just kind of give you a quick nod to let you know I understand it might take a little bit of time, but I'm ready to order whenever you're ready. Number 4, we do judge you based off what you drink. I've seen some BuzzFeed articles, maybe you have as well, or other like viral blogs or videos saying like what your bartender thinks about you based off what you buy and what you drink and order. It is 100% true. Now, I'm not gonna go in depth on this video about like, if you order this drink, this is what they think of you. But I will say, 1, bartenders do low-key, like I said, not intensely, but do low-key judge you based off what you order. The second thing though, and this I think is the bigger one, is not necessarily the drink that you order in terms of judging you, but the time it takes to make the drink. If it's like, say, a college bar and it's super crazy and everyone's ordering a beer, like say beer or a shot or whatever, and then you come up and you order a super complicated, very in-depth mixed drink, bartenders aren't necessarily mad at you per se, because they're like, all right, I get it, like you can order what you want, but at the same time, they are kind of frustrated where they're like, hey, everyone's ordering a beer, it's dollar beer night, for example, and you come up and you ask for this super complicated mixed drink, and even though you're not doing anything wrong, a bartender can get frustrated. Now it just kind of like throws off the flow, but hey, I mean, that is bartending. Number 5, alcohol on top. This is a very unique trick. Some places use right, I will say that. And this is why I always suggest stir a mixed drink when you get it. Here's why. This is something bartenders don't want you to know, is for some places, and they do really kind of push this as well. If let's say you have a rum and Coke, what a lot of places will do is this, is get the glass, put in ice, then Coke, and then rum. The reason why is, as you can imagine, with the alcohol being put in last, it kind of sits more on top of the ice and the drink. The reason why most places suggest to do this, as you can imagine, is if you take that first sip and it's 90% alcohol, you're like, oh my God, whoa, this is a strong mixed drink. They made a really good mixed drink. It's not that it's necessarily strong, they just put the alcohol up front so it appears stronger than it actually is. Number 6, and this is a rough one, things are way dirtier than you think. Obviously, it depends on the bar, but again, this is something your bartender does not want you to know. For a higher end bar, not as much of an issue, but for a lower end bar, it becomes a bigger issue that things are way dirtier than you think. One, I will say this, the glasses typically are decently clean, especially, let's say, if you have a good bar back or if they have a dishwasher. Typically, those aren't as bad, but the biggest issues, mainly 3 in my opinion, are the ice, the garnishes, and the beer taps / lines. Now, when it comes to the ice, just trust me, I personally don't like getting ice at bars. And I will say this as a side note, and this is something every bartender wants you to know. Not having ice in your drink doesn't make it any stronger. Please, every bartender hates this when, let's say someone's like, oh, can I not get ice so I get more liquor? No, you get the same amount of liquor almost every time, so just trust me on that. But the ice, usually, again, it depends on the bar, super dirty, so personally, I don't like getting ice in my drinks. The second thing is the garnishes. And in case you didn't know, a garnish is basically like the little bit of flair they put on your mixed drink at the end of the drink. So it could be a lime, a lemon, an orange peel, whatever. Those items, keep in mind, they're left out sometimes for hours while they're making drinks and people are kind of going through the bar and everything. They're usually uncovered. They're not covered up. Those can get way dirtier than you think. And the third thing, huge, is the beer lines. So as you can imagine, the beer line, to make it super simple, goes from, like, say, the keg and back, wherever the beer is, all the way to the tap that they're pouring. Those tubes can usually be filthy, especially for some dive bars. I've heard of stories of them not cleaning those out for a year or 2 or whatever, or something really, really bad. And they just get super disgusting because, as you can imagine, a lot of beer will run through those tubes and then just left out overnight. Then they do it again and again and again and again. Those tubes can just be super, super filthy. Number 7, the unspoken upsell. This is one that, for me, I hate it when I see other bartenders do this. It really does frustrate me. I think it's shady. I think it's rude. And just overall super disrespectful. Huge pro tip I'm gonna say right in the beginning before I explain what this is. When you order a mixed drink, please always specify the liquor in it. Another big pro tip I'm gonna give you, let's say if you're on a budget, let's say you're in college, or let's say you're just on an intense budget and you're like, shoot, I don't have a lot of money to spend. The casual or the kind of the slang phrase a lot of people use is well liquor. The term well liquor basically just means what's your cheapest liquor. So let's say if you want to get a vodka soda, but you're on an intense budget, just say, can I get well vodka and soda? What that says to the bartender is give me your cheapest vodka possible. Now, in some bars, they might have like a list of mixed drinks that show you and tell you what the liquor is. But if you're getting, let's say, a general mixed drink like gin and tonic, rum and Coke, vodka soda, tequila soda, whatever, always, 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 always specify the liquor that you want. Don't make it a vague thing. Here's the reason why. For a bartender, when they, let's say, get ordered a vodka soda, for example, well, it's up to the bartender's discretion which vodka to give you. Now, a good bartender will do one of 2 things. One is they'll say to you, all right, is there any vodka you want in particular? We have this, this, and this. So they'll give you a bunch of different options. The second thing a good bartender will do is they'll suggest an option to you. So they'll just say, hey, is Tito's vodka okay, for example? Now, let's say it's just super busy, or let's say they just don't even want to. Sometimes the bartender will choose the alcohol on their own. Now, like I said, for a good bartender, like say in this case, they will just kind of pick a vodka or a liquor that's not super expensive, but not super cheap. So take vodka. I think Tito's, prime example. It's a very easy go-to vodka. I'll just pick Tito's, right? So a good bartender, again, even if they don't ask you, they'll give you a good like mid-shelf or mid-tier liquor. However, a bad bartender, and this is something that happens more than you think, especially like say in higher end bars or depending on the situation, if they think you have a good amount of money or if they just think they can get it out of you, they will purposely kind of give you a more expensive liquor because it gives them a bigger tip. And I gotta be honest, I hate it when bartenders do this. For some bartenders, and again, it depends upon the bartender, the situation, whatever. Again, if you do order a mixed drink, but you don't specify the liquor or it's not specified in advance, there are times, and again, it is very situational, but there are times where they'll just purposely upsell you without asking to get more money out of you and a bigger tip. And now, a bonus point of something your bartender does not want you to know is conservation. This was developed by Jean Piaget. You might remember this in psychology where they do like a video, right? They have two glasses. They have one glass with water and an empty glass. They take that same glass of water, pour it in a different glass, and then they ask children which glass holds more liquid, this one or this one. And even though the kids may have seen them pour the liquid into the other glass, even though they can see the liquid's the same in both glasses in a sense, they will still think one glass holds more liquid than the other one. And it's pretty ironic because as adults, we look at that and say, how does that make any sense? However, we still fall to the same trap and almost optical illusion, if that's the right word, in a bar. So take these glasses, for example. There's been a lot of times when I go out to a bar, I order a shot, let's say with some friends. I get it in this glass, and when you see that line there, typically that line means 1 ounce. And in case you don't know, this is a little fun fact about bartending, which can be kind of annoying. A shot can either be an ounce or 1.5 ounces. Kind of weird that it's super vague, because if you think about it, 1.5 ounces is a third more than an ounce. Anyway though, let's say I get a couple shots and they all get filled to that line. I've had some friends be like, oh man, dude, look at that glass. I can't do this big of a shot. There's no way I can handle that big of a shot. And I have to explain like, no. That's actually an optical illusion. A shot glass like this, for example, will actually have more liquid in it and be a bigger shot. However, when you see it at a bar, especially if you look at like the bottom of it, because the bottom is traditionally just glass, but it's raised, it looks like a bigger shot. And this is a trick that's used a lot in bars to make it seem like you're getting way more alcohol when you're really not. Now, I will say as a side note, and I do like to be very honest, it's not like this is the bartender's fault completely. It's not like a bartender, comes to the bar with all these optical illusion glasses from home to try to mess with customers. It's not usually that case. This is more of like a bar thing, but a lot of bars have glasses like this that appear to be a bigger shot, so you think you're getting more alcohol.